All right, welcome. This is the INNOVAT Podcast. I am your host, Ted Hahs. We talk about bringing greater innovation into solving the world's biggest challenges. And we're starting right here in the Bay Area. And I'm here with my man, Kareem. We just launched an amazing project in Solano. Kareem pastors, he's the campus pastor of Liberty Church in Fairfield. He's also a church planner. You've been doing this for a while, right?
For a while, man.
And he's modeling the followers, the people of faith, not just talking and arguing about their faith, not trying to convince everyone else that they're right, but going out and showing what they believe by what they do, by taking care of the least of these among us, which is very Jesus-like. So we just talked about what you're doing in the community. I want to talk about your story.
Yes, sir. Well, man, I'm a Chicago kid, born and raised on the South Side. And, man, I love my city, home. In Chicago, we're a city of neighborhoods, so very territorial. You learn the invisible lines. You learn, hey, when you go to a place, who's going to be there? Who's showing up later? How did I get in? How do I get out? You learn how to just case the joint, you're checking vibes.
Were you always saved?
I wasn't always saved. I got saved as a teenager, man. So
what was your upbringing like?
just rough upbringing, man. I was the typical South Sider.
Okay.
Our fair share. I love my family, but we had our fair share of drugs and alcohol,
Okay.
Did
you have both your mom and your dad?
mom and dad, they split when I was a young guy, but always, always had my dad there, man. I was blessed to have that.
So you were above the curve or better than average, but still
Above the curve.
the divorce is still very, very, very traumatic.
Very traumatic. But you know what, man? We're always grateful.
Yeah.
Always grateful. I think we had a structure that may not have been one that you would choose, but we made do. And we kept going, man. My sisters and I, and we figured it out.
Absolutely.
We figured it out.
Yeah, when you're growing up, you don't know any different.
We don't know any different.
Normal.
That's right.
So then, I mean, you're a miracle. I imagine there's quite a few of your friends that
Man.
didn't make it.
Man, my first year of college, Ted, I went to play football at Evangel College, Springfield, Missouri.
Okay, so you're a football player.
I went to
What was your position?
I played linebacker, and then from there went to defensive end and defensive tackle. Played defense most of my days. And Springfield, Missouri, totally different from the South Side of Chicago.
Okay.
But I'll never forget, man, my first year, that freshman year of college. So many friends that I grew up with, either from the neighborhood or high school, had been killed. And there was at least 4 funerals. By the time we went on our Christmas break, some of us had returned home 3 or 4 times for funerals of close, friends that we've grown up with. So it did not become the norm, but it hit you in a way that where you say, I was grateful for the opportunity, not so much to leave Chicago, but to find a space to grow, to develop, to tend to the call of God that was on my life, to really love my city, love where I'm from, but at the same time, get into this zone where I was very, very confident and clear and sure of what God wanted me to do as a young guy. And I believe that it was the release, so to speak, the transition to go away to a very unfamiliar place. And I would even say at the time, uncomfortable. But I needed it so that I could
minority in
Oh my goodness, man. Our school was 97% white.
Wow. Okay.
So
Football was your thing.
football was
You were obviously an elite football player. If you
Well,
played
I would say that. I got friends that be like, nah. But if you ask me, if you ask me, I was the best thing going if you ask me, but I'm humble enough to say we had some amazing talent at our small college. We had guys go pro, man, from Evangel College. So they were doing it. It was it was a special place in regards to sports.
I want to reverse a little bit, though.
Yeah.
Tell me about your turnaround. You said you met Jesus.
Yeah.
In
and out of trouble on the South Side. I was a cool kid, man. Can you imagine me not being cool? I was a cool kid, but trouble was around me. So selling drugs, stealing cars. If your partners and your friends are doing it sooner or later,
every model you see.
you know what I'm saying? That's the way we roll. And I was, I wouldn't say I was the leader, but I was kind of a leader. People kind of leaned on me, and everybody knew Reem, growing up. So you're going to get involved in some of those activities. And I got involved, man. I got involved. Man, I would say by 7th, 8th grade. I know before I graduated 8th grade, man, I was in trouble. And courts were definitely, I was in the system. I was actually on supervision, which is back in those days, probation for minors.
They say, did you go to juvenile hall?
But I did it. I escaped juvenile hall, but I was so close, brother. I remember the judge telling me, if I see you one more time, Hickman, you're going straight, So it was one of those things where the local church partnered with one of the Southside Tabernacle, 7742 South Racine, Chicago, Illinois.
Baptist Church?
Assemblies of God Church.
Okay.
And that's how the connection with Evangel and growing up in the assemblies and bus ministry. So this church would send the bus to our block. And man, we were rough, but this church would come to the roughest areas and pick us up for church.
It's so beautiful, because we love to pick. I mean, you and I do it too, because you can get frustrated with the church because they're so stuck into the four walls, and you're trying to get them out, and it's resistant. But these are always so refreshing. I see that they're doing amazing work, and they're not getting paid for it. It doesn't cost the government anything, and it's sacrificial, and they're doing it because they love people.
They love people. Our pastor loved people.
So the busing program,
he made sure that those buses were going to Inglewood, to those tough, rough areas he was going. And those bus drivers, man, I never forget when we saw the bus when I was growing up, we would run. We were like, hey, man, they coming, let's go. Then they would do Saturday door knocking. We knew the times. We knew when they would come. So we like, man, we're not going to church, bro. But when trouble hit, I'll never forget this.
Oh, you would go running
way out of here, bro.
That's not cool.
We got stuff to do. Yeah, man, trouble hit. I'll never forget, man. My mom answered the door. The church knocked on the door, and we were going to do our routine. We're not here, whatever. We good. We want to pray for you. Well, we're all right. And I'll never forget my mom said, I think we need to let them in this time. And the youth pastor at the time of Southside Tabernacle, Wayman Thomas, came in my house. He heard about my situation, prayed with me. He said, man, there's something about you, bro. God's got something for y'all. When you're a kid, I'm 12, 13, maybe 13, maybe. I don't know what this.
That's just when you decide.
Right there. I don't know what he's talking about, but he saw something. So I remember going to church. We got on the bus, man, and my sister and I, we went to church. And I just remember hearing that message, not knowing it was called the gospel at the time, but this message of Jesus loving you and caring for you and dying for you so that you can live. Something happened, bro. And I never forget my next court date. My attorney takes me, the judge would personally talk to you because that's her, She had a conversation with me and she said, hey, what have you been up to? What have you been up to, Hickman? I said, you know what, Judge? I've been going to church. She was like, yeah, right. And what you learning? I said, man, Jesus loved me. Basic, but it was, for me, I didn't know I just knew I was talking to her. And I'll never forget the look in this judge's eyes. She said something. If this church is willing to take you, I'm willing to adjust my plans for you. And I'll never forget, here's a judge, south side of Chicago, tells my attorney, which is probably, public defender, to call the church. He calls the church. The church picks up the phone. Some kind of way the pastor gets the phone. They tell him about this kid that's been coming to their church, and if they're willing to mentor him and put them in this program for a year. It'll keep me out of jail, out of juvenile. And they said, bring them. So for 52 weeks, I was on supervision. You know what I had to do every week? I had to go to church every week. For 52 weeks, I had to go to church. So most people go to the altar for prayer. I started going to the altar because I had a piece of paper that they had to sign to say I was in church that day so that I could give it to my probation officer on Monday.
I'm loving that. And that, informs what you're doing now, what we're doing in Salinas and in Solano County. But we know that's a best practice.
Oh, man.
Like there's so much data. If the judge, and like when you're in front of a judge, you have a come to Jesus moment, like, that they know that, like they see people get off drugs when they go to prison, the challenges when they get out. But if the judge sends you down one path, if you got into juvenile hall, the stats show they're going to train you to be a better criminal.
You better believe it. That's exactly what they did.
But if she has other options, and if she can then put her weight behind what's already happening in your heart, behind the other authority figures, your mother, and then it's aligned, now you can go down a whole nother path.
I believe
that's why
it's powerful.
Leaders like you need to get out of the four walls, reach out, be a little bit persistent. I mean, that church had to send buses how many times before you finally caved?
Years. These moments, we call them Kairos moments.
Yes.
They're God-ordained moments where decisions have to be made. And when I was a young guy, when a decision had to be made in my life, the church was there for me.
We call them Kairos moments.
Yeah.
There's a whole science behind that.
Yes.
Like if you want to help a drug addict, there's a period of time. Yes. There's a short period of time during the day where they're actually sober enough and in their right mind to make a decision.
Right.
Okay. But then there's times like, when they go before the judge, if they're a woman, if they get pregnant, okay, when they're getting out of prisons, when they're very vulnerable. And if we can help them in those transitions when they're ready to change, and we've got to be there. That's why we advocate so much for treatment on demand. Which means when a person is touched by the Spirit, they want to change, that's when we have got to come around them. It's not about us.
It's not about us.
Them.
But you said the key word, we got to be there. So let's, full circle.
Yeah.
So here we are, 2025. Just a couple weeks ago, we had a chance to teach together, talk about prayer evangelism, invite elected officials to that service, pray with them, and have a meeting after to solidify partnerships, right? Isn't it funny how 35 years ago, I was the kid who needed a partnership between government and church.
You were about that age.
I was that age.
Right. That's like a sign that, we came together and our partnership allowed us to be in a place to respond in a timely way.
Come on.
When Vanessa got the call from the mother who had the 14-year-old daughter who's being trafficked in Vallejo. And she needs someone to go rescue her now. And she was having a hard time because the system is tough. The police are overwhelmed. They have so many calls, We were able and in a position to partner together, and she's now back with her mother.
Can we come to the assumption that something powerful is going to happen when we do that?
I think so.
I think
it's an educated guess, a hypothesis. We have lots of evidence. Actually, I think it's proven. When we all work together, when we can coordinate our services, we can then we get the best results.
Innovation. It's hard to say this so long ago. Could it be on the south side of Chicago, one of the worst neighborhoods in the country at that time, Inglewood, brother, we were on the map, still are to this day, I believe. This troubled community in Chicago found a way to reach troubled, hurting, broken kids, me, by sending buses. Was that not innovation? 30, 40 years ago.
Absolutely. Get
No,
outside.
get outside the walls.
No.
Go to these neighborhoods. Go to those blocks. Go to where the trouble is and get them to escape the block for a moment. Bring them to church. Let them hear the gospel. Let them feel the love. Let them hear the sound of love and praise and community and fellowship. They may not have any idea what's happening, but they're experiencing something.
Yeah.
They're going to go home and say, I've got to go back.
Yeah.
I've got to get back to whatever I felt during those 2-3 hours on Sunday. I think we have to continue. I think we can't give up. We can't let up. We got to keep creating experiences for people that are wounded, broken, hurting. We got to get them in environments where they can heal, or at least start the process of healing.
And realize it's a long game, but take the beautiful thing you're experiencing in your church.
Yes.
Take it out to the community. Reach out to those who need it the most.
Come on.
Yeah. And then when you do that, it's beautiful things happen.
Powerful, man. I remember 5th and Bryant, started the beginning of my church planting season. We started on Treasure Island. From Treasure Island, I partnered with the SBC. They started the Urban Center on 5th and Bryant. And, I ended up planting out of that facility. And the homeless men and women in that community, we developed a powerful relationship to where every Sunday we wouldn't just have service, we would have breakfast, then service. And then something happened right there on 5th and Bryant. I'll never forget this season of my life.
5th and Bryant, that's
right here in San Francisco, right down the road. And man, we started cutting guys' hairs, getting them clothes for interviews. They started getting their SROs, and they would come. We just started seeing these stories, right? Organically happening and taking place. So about a year later, man, I can walk from, I'm living right there. We got our living quarters right there on 5th and Bryant next to the building. And so I could walk to the mall, I could walk to work, wherever I'm walking, all you would hear is, hey, Pastor, how you doing? Pastor, I'll be there Sunday. Hey, Pastor, you need help? It's all these homeless guys and ladies. They're recognizing me as their pastor. So I had some friends come to town to visit, San Francisco, man, we hanging out, we talking. And I think we walked to the mall on Mission. Walked to the mall from Bryant to Mission. We just having fun walking. In every block, somebody would say, hey, Pastor, how you doing? Good to see you, man. And so my buddies, he said, man, what? He said, you the homeless bishop here in San Francisco. Everywhere we go, you're known. And all these homeless people are calling you pastor and giving you hugs. And so it was a relationship had developed, man. Something happened. It was a sense of identity and purpose and love and care. They were cool with me. I was cool with them. That season meant so much for me. And when you talk about innovating, we didn't have a lot of resources. Most church planners don't. But here's what we had. We had love. We had time. We knew how to put together some breakfasts. We knew how to use our gifts, cutting hair and getting clothes and shoes. And we knew how to help people. And something small turned into something I thought was significant by the time I transitioned, man. It was just a movement of caring, loving, sharing, encouraging. And man, one of the joys of that season was the consistent testimonies. When you start seeing guys getting jobs and guys saying, hey, Pastor, I've been clean for 3 months. How you like me now? I mean, you was always afraid.
Taking care of people on the street.
Yes.
It's tough. It's hard. You've got to put up with a lot of disappointment. And, same with helping victims of human trafficking. Anyone who has a traumatic background, it's hard. I can tell you, there is nothing more rewarding than when you see their lives being turned around. And to see it in the little steps, and then they culminate, and then they're, become oaks of righteousness.
And it does something for us. It reminds us, this is why I'm here. It's a reminder that I'm called to this. It's a reminder that, man, that really wasn't that hard to make an impact in his life. It's a reminder that while I'm helping them, actually, when it's all said and done, if someone was to really, and I've done it before, if I was to really talk about that season of my life, it wasn't the help I was giving them. You know what was happening, Ted? They were helping me. They were helping me develop. They were helping me rearrange, realign some thoughts and some even theology and things that I was taught I had to unlearn while I was seeing the power of God just freely flow through me to love others. There was a turning in my heart in regards to grace, love, the new covenant, God's love for people. This legalistic stand that I took as a young pastor and leader, that thing just shattered because it did absolutely nothing in regards to sharing the gospel. But man, just a free flow of loving people and seeing the grace of God flow in me, through me. Man, those are some memorable moments. And even though I may not have had the language of what was happening in that season, I'll never forget it. I saw the power of it. And I believe those seasons prepared me for today.
And that's another foundational principle of what we have to do if we're going to build up a community.
Yes.
You know, there's two different paradigms of how you reach out to poor and hurting communities. One is need-based, service-based.
Yes.
The other is place-based, asset-based. The need-based, service-based is needed particularly after a crisis. So you go in, you assess what are the needs here, and you're like, well, you know, these kids need education, but there's just a tsunami. We can't build education. First, we have to restore water and food. Okay, that's first. And then you build services around that. So that's important in responding to a crisis, but that's the overwhelming paradigm that we deliver almost all of our services as. We go in, we think of the needs, you know, and then we build services around that. But the problem is as things evolve, now we have a machine that delivers the services and it keeps going, and it's a fundraising machine.
Yes.
The underlying foundational paradigm, place-based, asset-based, means you're serving that community.
Yes.
And you're finding the assets in that community and you're partnering with them. So you're going in and instead of saying, oh, these are all homeless people that need my help, you're like, no, this guy's creative. This guy is there. This guy has a gift for networking. You assess the assets there, and then you build around that.
Man, that's so powerful. I think every pastor, every leader needs to know that you're surrounded by assets. You are surrounded, every single one of us. We're surrounded by assets. The very thing we've been praying for, believing for, fasting for, you name it. Could it be that the assets around us are the answers to prayer? But I have to have the willingness to surrender and be led by the Spirit so that God can open my eyes to see the assets in my community. I'm going to say this, man. Every homeless person in our community, they're an asset. Here's the key. How much love, care, grace is it going to take for them to no longer be viewed as a hindrance, but to be viewed as an asset that I'm going to help? I'm going to walk with them. I'm going to spend time with them. I'm going to create some systems for them to grow and for them to be convinced themselves that they're assets. I think that can be a powerful, innovative approach to seeing some things shift in the Bay Area.
Well, excellent. This is just wonderful. You're an example. You're a bridge builder. You know, I'm so glad the Lord brought you here to the Bay Area, breaking down walls, and it's an honor to partner with you. So thank you so much, sir, for this conversation. So what's your closing remark of tell other social entrepreneurs, the young kids?
Yes, I would use the phrase asset as we close. You're an asset. You're a blessing. You may have trouble, fears. There may be some things that you're dealing with and journeying through, but you're still an asset. And God's got a plan. God's got a purpose for your life. And you just need to accept the fact that you've been chosen by God. He loves you dearly. He's giving you a seat at his table. You've been accepted, and God wants to do amazing things in you and through you. I call that a kingdom asset. We're all kingdom assets.
I love it. Thank you. And if you're one of those leaders out there that's feeling alone, that resonates with what he just shared, reach out to us. Ping me on LinkedIn or X, or reach out and be part of our community. We want to all work together to solve the world's biggest challenges. We're starting right where we're at, right here in the Bay Area, right in Fairfield, Vallejo, and Solano County. So thank you for joining us, and thank you for being my guest today.